Entering the Mayo experience.
That Mayo experience. That Mayo experience. That Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast. This for UFC 228. Remember to give the show a like and all of that good stuff. We're here to break down two title fights. It's me and obviously my co-host, the man himself, Cody Saftic. Interesting card. Probably not a card that has tons of, when people talk about all the pay-per-view buys and who's gonna, how much is this gonna sell? This may not sell, but you know what? This is a card that, like, top to bottom, as I looked at it, it's like there's a lot of fun fights on this card. Like, this is the type of card that doesn't get any love, that doesn't get the type of media exposure and all of that, but on fight night, we're gonna see some knockouts, we're gonna see some violence, we're gonna see some blood. If you're a hardcore fan of this sport, that's kind of what we're in for. Just bleed type of.
You just don't really want to pay $70 for something you get on a fight night event or a box card or something that you're not.
There's two title fights, though.
There's two title fights. Here's the thing. This is only Thursday, Paul. We don't know that Darren Till is actually going to fight in the main event. We don't know if he's going to make weight. We don't know what's going to happen. This is a possibility. If I could somehow make some type of future bet, I would try to look at the future bet on this, that Till misses weight by, say, 3.5. Woodley, being Woodley, does not accept the fight. Usman makes weight. He's at 170. He steps in. Woodley, being Woodley, also does not take that fight. Usman versus Till at a catchweight. That is a real situation that could occur. Knock on wood. I do want to see Woodley and Till. We're about to break it down. I don't think this is a firework fight. I think it has the potential to be a firework fight. Both guys have had highlights in the past. Both guys could come on Saturday night to fight and leave it all in the ring. But I don't know, man. I got a gut feeling that this is not going to be a great main event. The co-main event, you have a 12-1 favorite. I mean, that's not even viewed as competitive. And then the rest of the... ZABIT's my boy, but he's taking on Brendan Davis. You look at this card, it doesn't even make any sense. And to this point, I know we're going to talk about this as well, but Tatiana Suarez, her last fight, she's the co-main event of a free card. She's a co-main event. She looks flawless. Here's a future challenger. Here's somebody that we can actually put some marketing money behind and we can promote her. She's taking on a former world champion, who's actually not on a bad run despite having a couple bad decisions go against her, and Carlos Esparza. And this is not even on the main card. Like, what a joke. You're talking about building stars and this is what we're going to get. So I agree with having to pay for it? No. But I'm going to make money on this card, and that's going to pay for it. So it is what it is. 228. Let's get at it.
Counterpoint to your thing about Suarez. She is the main event of the prelims, right?
Yes. And if nobody plans on buying this pay-per-view,
more people are going to actually probably see her fight, at least legally, than people are going to tune into the pay-per-view. So I think that's still a good spot to be in.
Good call.
Before we get started, it's obviously been a couple weeks since we've been here. We do have a winner from the last week's show. It is Nicky Noodles 19, longtime fan of the show.
It's good to see Nicky Noodles get the victory.
He won the random draw here. And then this week, so we're thinking just before we went on air, what should we do as this week's giveaway? So between Valentina Shevchenko, Nika Montano, Zabit Magomedsharipov, and Brandon Davis, Jessica Andrade, and Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and Tatiana Suarez, and Carla Esparza. Who has the highest likelihood of
shitting in the apple pie? We got 4 big favorites here. And if we know anything about big favorites, one of them's going to blow it. The answer to last week's 2 weeks ago would have been Warlley Alves blew it. Who is going to blow it this time? Please enlighten us if you have the correct answer. And best case scenario, none of them shit in the apple pie. We get a nice fresh apple pie here. But if you got a swing, let us know. Because if you bet against the apple pie shitter, there is some money to be made because, some of these lines are pretty crazy, man.
So to win that, what you've got to do is put your DK handle in the description. Who you think has the highest likelihood of shitting in the apple pie. It's a completely random draw, so somebody, not name myself, Pat Mayo will go through and basically pick somebody at random. And that's how Nicky Noodles won. So Nicky Noodles, money will be in your account probably next week. They're a little bit behind at the old football season, all that other stuff at the DK offices, but the money is coming Nicky Noodles 19's way. Maybe money will be coming your way. Let's just get into the action here, though. We have Darren Till taking on Tyron Woodley. Darren Till is 8,100 on DraftKings, minus 115 favorite. Tyron Woodley is 8,100, minus 105. Straight pick 'em across the board. Who you got?
Putting me on the spot, who do I got in a straight pick 'em? I'm going to lean towards Till, but Jesus, there are many ways that this fight could go. I see everybody kind of breaking it down their own perspective. Woodley's wrestling, that's an advantage for him. Till's size, obviously, that's an advantage for him. But honestly, man, I don't know what's going to happen come Saturday night because both guys got a style that's going to lead to, in my opinion, nothing happening in this fight. Darren Till is a powerful striker. We know he's got power. We know he's got big elbows. He's got that big left, liver kick to the body from the southpaw stance. But outside of his small magnitude of weapons, he's not a combination puncher. He puts pressure on guys, but he's not completely lighting them up the whole time. He's had relatively close fights with guys that were certainly not on world championship level, and he, so to speak, kind of plays with his food. Even his last fight against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, he misses weight for that fight. So big question mark from him going in here is he going to make weight? What's he going to look like making weight? And it's championship weight. That extra 1 pound to a guy that just came in 4 pounds over is a big deal. So I don't know what I'm getting quite out of Till just yet. As for Tyron Woodley, 36 years old, doesn't really fight all that often. His last couple performances, I don't want to say squeaking by, but just doesn't look like the killer that we expect out of Tyron Woodley. He's super athletic, first and foremost. He's got the big right hand. He's got big power. He's a former, D1 wrestler. The guy can wrestle. He's super quick. He's got everything, right? He's got everything that makes a good champion. The problem is that A, he doesn't have the punch output. B, at 36, he's kind of starting to lose that a little bit. And C, he doesn't commit to wrestling as a game plan anymore because he doesn't want to gas himself out. You look at the first Stephen Thompson fight. How's he going to beat Stephen Thompson? By taking him down. Why would you want to?
By backing up against the fence and exploding every once in a while. Like that's kind of what he does a whole bunch in a lot of his fights. He's got a lot of. Sorry, I cut you off. Continue.
No, it's totally fine. I get what you're saying. But going back to the first Stephen Thompson fight, you're taking on one of the better strikers in the division, a guy that's viewed as pretty one-dimensional as a striker. Mm-hmm. We don't think he can wrestle. We don't think he's really all that good off his back. So why would you stand with him? Tyron Woodley completes a takedown in the very first round against Stephen Thompson. He holds him down for the entire round. He pounds him with elbows. He easily wins that first round. He opts to not shoot any more takedowns 2, 3, 4, and 5. In fact, he's giving the fight away until he lands that hellacious right hand in the fourth, probably scores a 10-8, somehow still loses the fifth round and ends up with a draw. The second time he fights Stephen Thompson, one of the worst fights I've ever seen in my life. Neither guy willing to engage. Absolutely nothing happens. I think Wonderboy won the fight, but again, who the fuck knows? Nothing's actually happened. And they give it to Woodley, and then he falls out with the Damian Maia fight. That's obviously going to be a different style altogether from what he's going to see in Darren Till. What he's going to see in Darren Till is a guy that's going to stand in front of him, and because of that range, he kind of gets gun shy. I hate to have to go back to the last time we saw Woodley look terrible and lose a fight, which is him versus Rory McDonald, but he stays in front of Rory, and he freezes up because he knows he can't go out there and tag him. He's got to close that distance. He knows that the takedown defense for Rory checks out. For Till, maybe not quite as good as Rory McDonald, but Till's a lot bigger than Rory McDonald, and if I commit to wrestling this guy, it's going to take energy out of me. I've got to wrestle with a guy that's not quite twice my size, but he's a big dude, right? So I don't think the wrestling's going to be there. I think it's going to be him doing what we've seen in recent fights, which is him backing up all the way to the fence, waiting for that one big punch. That one big punch lands on Wonderboy, he goes down. Recovers, but he goes down. I don't know that he's going to knock Till down. For him to win, he's got to wrestle him. He's got to do what Dalby did. But that was a long time ago. That was him with a separated shoulder against Dalby. And he's looked a lot better since then. So this is a tough fight to break down, man, because the more you think about it, they both got the tools to get the victory. But I'm going to go with the fact that Till being bigger is going to cause Woodley to second-guess himself. He doesn't like getting hit. He's not going to close the distance. He's going to stand at bay. And then Till's basically going to do what he did against Wonderboy, which is use that lead kick, work the knee a little bit, try to land that straight left, try to land the right. He didn't really throw the left a whole lot against Stephen Thompson. But again, just try to beat him with those singular strikes one at a time, have a little bit more power. And this fight, in my view, is going to decision, take the over on it. I think it's going to be pretty boring, and it's going to be a split, or it's going to be close. No matter what happens, Tyron Woodley is going to be upset and feel disrespected by the decision. But if he wins, it's just going to be a close fight, and if he loses, they're going to scream robbery. But tough fight to put money on, man. Yeah. Now, looking at the 8,100 for as far as DraftKings goes, I don't like either of them in a GPP because I don't think they're going to score that big. The 5 rounds, that makes it enticing for a cash game, but I don't got a solid dog in the race here. I don't got somebody that I firmly think is going to win. Therefore, it's not really a cash game play. It's a little bit too risky. So for the first time in a long time, I think I'm avoiding this main event. As far as DraftKings goes, I'm going to have a little bit of money on Till, but I'm not going to have him as a parlay piece. I'm not going to go big on him. It's just gun to my head. We got to make a choice here. I'm going to think Darren Till gets the job done.
And just to kind of piggyback on a bunch of what you just said there, the one time or the best performance, arguably in terms of like finishing ability and that type of thing, that we ever saw from Till is when he got Donald Cowboy Cerrone, who is susceptible to getting rushed and all of that. But when we saw him backing up, when he got him up against the cage, that's when he was really able to unload on Donald Cowboy Cerrone. So if Woodley, it's a big if, because Woodley has proven to be one of the smartest guys. Like his ring IQ is top notch. So the performance against Damian Maia, while it would put most people to sleep, it was smart, man. He was able to shook off all of the takedown attempts from Damian Maia, and nobody else was able to do that. The guy's smart. He knows his opponent very well coming into any sort of fight. The thing about it is that if he does play that game of backing up against the fence, there's a lot of weapons that Till has. So yes, gun to my head, I'm picking Till in this spot. DraftKings, I prefer Till because Woodley, you're banking on if you roster him, he's got to land that big one. He's got to put him away because he just doesn't have any. Both of these guys don't have volume, but like Woodley, when he's backing up, has like no volume.
Yeah.
Like absolutely zero volume.
Two quick points I want to add on there is that even if Tyron Woodley goes in with the appropriate game plan, which is get the takedowns, he's not going to do anything with the takedown. Yeah. It's going to be, let's say he gets a takedown in all 5 rounds. It's 5 takedowns, 25 points. He's not going to have the passes. He's not going to try to pass. If he can get to half guard, that's all it's going to be. And he's very slow and deliberate with the punches. Going back to taking Darren Till, if it does go to that close clinch range, I think that, obviously Tyron Woodley's a little bit better in the clinch because he's the better wrestler, but he's generally that strong, explosive guy, so he can throw his opponent around a little bit. Because Till does have the size advantage, it's going to be a lot harder to throw him down.
Yeah.
Remember, it's going back a long time, so I know I'm going to take some grief for saying it, but Tyron Woodley versus Nate Marquardt in Strikeforce, right? Tyron Woodley clinches up with Nate Marquardt. Nate Marquardt's got elbows waiting for him, and they dice him the fuck up, man. Bad. Till's got elbows. He's got sneaky, powerful little elbows in the clinch.
In those positions.
And I don't think Woodley's going to want to single collar tie him. I don't think Woodley's going to want to dirty box him because he's going to eat something, probably while he's got his back against the fence, and it's going to hurt him. But I haven't really quite seen the killer instinct out of Till to outside of the Cerrone fight to, I got this guy hurt. I need to pour it on. I need to pressure him. I need to put it on him. But, this could go the way we're seeing it. Till's bigger. Till's a little more physical. He's the younger guy. He should just do a little bit to outpoint him. My last 2 points on it is Till versus Wonderboy. Nothing happens. And yet people are screaming robbery. If that fight's not in England, Till probably doesn't win it. So now this fight, I'm anticipating nothing to happen. So someone's going to scream robbery. Someone's going to feel like they got the short end of the stick. And that just makes it dicey, man. Like, I can't see a clear, easy, this is how it's going to go down. It seems very slow and deliberate. Well, we'll see what happens.
Well, to counterbalance the thoughts on that fight, we move to the flyweight championship of the world between Valentina Shevchenko, the challenger, taking on Nico Montano, the champion. Valentina is 9,600 on DraftKings and a minus 1,250 favorite. Nico Montano is 6,600 and plus 800 underdog. This is Shevchenko's division. As soon as she moved over from 135 and she took on the crackhead from Brazil, that was really bad. That should never have actually happened. Now, Montano, she was about the same type of favorite as she was against Priscilla Cachoeira. She is basically the same amount of favorite right now, which kind of puts in perspective that as a minus 1,100 favorite in that fight, there was actually value still on Shevchenko. She was the lock of all locks that we've ever seen in the UFC. Montano is at least much more refined, much more experienced, has some decent fights, won the Ultimate Fighter, beat Roxanne Modafferi. I know we like to shit on Roxanne Modafferi, but she's improved a lot, and Montano looked great in that fight. From a betting perspective, I don't get Shevchenko wins here, and she wins 98 times out of 100. So I guess technically there's probably a little bit of value on Shev, but it's really tough to get behind a minus 1,250 favorite in this spot, just because Shevchenko has in the past sometimes when just kind of tried to strike at range, and she will win all of those exchanges. But and if it goes 5 rounds and you're leaving it in the hands of judges and all of that stuff, like it's tough to bet it. 9,600 on DraftKings, that's the real question. Do you roster her? There's other people on this card. I'm interested to hear your take on the matter.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go against Valentina Shevchenko, and I'm not downplaying Nico Montano. It's just this is insurmountable odds, man. This is a crazy fight. This is not the UFC champion against the #1 contender. This is someone that won the Ultimate Fighter against the UFC champion. In any parallel world that you live in, Valentina Shevchenko is the uncrowned 125-pound champ. We knew the second that she arguably got robbed against Amanda Nunes at 135 that if they open the doors for 125, this is the girl. Everybody knew that. The show's in progress, and people are already talking about Valentina Shevchenko having the title. She hasn't even made 125. She fights Priscilla Cachoeira. She kills her. If Priscilla Cachoeira was fighting Nico Montano right here, it would be a close fucking fight, right? But you have Valentina Shevchenko smokes this girl, now she's getting Nico Montano. Who won the last season of The Ultimate Fighter? Let's say it was Brad Katona. They had 2 winners, Katona and, what's his name? Anyway.
Whatever.
Let's say Brad Katona came straight out of The Ultimate Fighter, won The Ultimate Fighter. He was at 145 pounds. He now needs to fight Max Holloway or Brian Ortega. Would he have a shot? No. Andrew Sanchez won a couple seasons ago. Andrew Sanchez would have to fight Robert Whittaker or Yoel Romero for a vacant belt. Would he have any shot? No. These guys are all people that just went through tough. Tough is not getting the title, man. It's tough. You come out of tough ranked number 30th in the division. You're not the number 1.
Excuse me? Have you ever heard of a guy named Matt Serra?
Yeah, okay, fair. That was the comebacks. That's different. And the point with Carla Esparza was she got the title coming out of tough, and she got diced when she attempted to defend the title. So and she was established. She was Carla Esparza before she got on tough. Nico Montano was 2-2 and had very little thing resembling actual success prior to coming on The Ultimate Fighter. Now, she looks good in The Ultimate Fighter. She goes out there, she beats Lauren Murphy. Lauren Murphy was seeded number 3. I think Montana was number 14. That's a big win. She went out there, she beat Montana De La Rosa, who's on paper a much better wrestler than this girl. She goes out there, she beats Barb Honchak, who was formerly the 125-pound queen. Those are 3 good wins in the Tough House. And then beats up Roxanne Modafferi, who, yeah, you talked about. This is a girl that's been around the game a very long time and has a little bit of trick up her sleeve for any opponent. And Nico Montano not only goes out there and bests her over the course of 5, but in one fight of the night, she landed 186 significant strikes against Roxanne Modafferi. So if she comes into this fight with Valentina Shevchenko and just works off output, Valentina Shevchenko is a better striker. She's got more power, she's slicker, she's faster, but she doesn't have the output of Nico Montano. So Montano's going to have to crowd her. Problem with crowding her is she's going to get taken down, and when she gets taken down, she's not good enough off her back to do anything. Shevchenko will advance guard. Shevchenko will rain down elbows. And you know what? If you're taking her for the 9,600, and I'm going to have some rosters with her for the 9,600, you're hoping that just like Priscilla Cachoeira, that some bad referee lets her survive so she can get taken down in the second round and get pounded again. Valentina Shevchenko's wrestling it's underrated because she's not really a wrestler, but she's got a judo black belt. She's someone who we perceive as being a striker, but she's smart. You want to talk about ring IQ. You want to talk about doing the right thing to get the victory. Shevchenko is a brilliant fighter, and I just feel that she's better in every one area. Now, other fights, if this was a male middleweight fight or whatever, there's the punches chance. I don't see the punches chance here. What's Nico Montano going to do? Go out there and knock her out? She couldn't knock out Roxanne Modafferi, and Roxanne Modafferi physically stands in front of you. No head movement, no athleticism. Another point to that was Roxanne Modafferi lands almost 100 significant strikes on her. Roxanne Modafferi scores 2 takedowns against her. Roxanne Modafferi rocks her at one point with a 1-2. She was a little off balance and she's really backwards, but your head got snapped back by Roxanne Modafferi. What do you think is going to happen here? So I think Shevchenko rolls. The 12-1, I don't like that with anything, but I got faith in Shevchenko. She's a do or die type fighter. I love ZABIT, and I'm taking him. We're going to talk about it later, but his 10-1 worries me a little bit more. Whereas Shevchenko is going to go out there and she's going to give her damnest all of the time. She gets the victory here. Nico Montano is a class fighter. She's a top 10 fighter. She's still young. She needs to develop. She needs to go through the wars. She needs to go through that grind. But this is not even a comparable fight, man. No. This is someone coming from the Bellator prelims taking on a world champion in the co-main event of a pay-per-view. Like
somebody who's actually world-class.
Yeah. Someone pointed out the other day, you and Paul always say, it's comparing apples and oranges. They're both fighters. It's not apples and oranges. You're comparing apples to apples. Just this apple looks a lot better than that one. No, motherfucker, this is apples to oranges, right? There's levels to this shit. Everybody knows that. And barring she slips on a banana peel and blows out her ACL, in which case she probably still wins. I have no argument for Montano other than she's got good punch output and she's tough and she's going to bring it. And we know she can go 5 because she just went 5, but that's it. That's really the only thing I can rally for her. Yeah. 96 is a deep price on anybody, but if Shevchenko's going to get the takedowns, she's going to outstrike her and she's going to just be able to pour it on her. Montano's toughness makes me want to take the 9600 because I'm just going to get multiple rounds of that. I hear a lot of people saying Shevchenko will just sub her. Maybe. Roxanne Modafferi almost subbed her with an armbar, and she is good on the ground, but Shevchenko could submit her. She submitted Juliana Pena, a girl that's twice the size of Nico Montano. She could submit her. She could pound her with elbows, and she could finish her. But let's not pretend that Shevchenko's a killer. She doesn't finish everybody. She's had a lot of fights that she just goes through the motions and gets the decision. So why can't she get takedowns, put on the ground and pound, get the transitions, couple submission attempts, back standing, beat her up a little bit, take her back down, and get me some value on this. So I'm going to have her on some lineups. Not every single lineup, but I'll play Shevchenko. How could you not? She's, you hate to say a lock, she kind of looks like a lock.
Well, we were mentioning about Zabit Magomedsharipov. He was supposed to take on Yair Rodriguez. And that fight pulled through. There was a lot of weirdness going into that.
Yair want to know part of Zabit.
Well, that's probably pretty likely. But then he basically lost his job, and then they made the fight happen. Very weird stuff. But then in the end, he ends up pulling out again. They bring in Brandon Davis on short notice. And let's face it, the lines here, 9,400 minus 165, or minus 1165, sorry. And 6,800 plus 750. Vegas giving Brandon Davis, I guess, a very slightly better chance than Nico Montano of pulling this off. You know, another fight where we've been talking about ring IQ a bunch on this, at least at the beginning of the card. When we get down to the bottom of the card, no ring IQ. But Zabit is the kind of guy who we kind of think of him as a striker, but we've seen in his game, like his wrestling, his grappling, his top control, is pretty elite as well. The guy's the complete package, and I think what we're going to see here is he knows that you just watch any tape, and you know he's in a good crew there that understand how to read their opponents and stuff. I think he's going to go in here, and Brandon Davis, what we've seen from him, he's taken down by Bochniak like 3-4 times, maybe even more. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. The guy can't stop a takedown. So I think Zabit takes him down at will, fishes for submissions, probably finds one. Maybe it gets into round 2, but it's a really tough call between going for Shevchenko and Zabit because jamming both of them in really, really, makes the bottom half of your card very, very difficult. So I think I am leaning towards Zabit, but Shevchenko does have the extra 2 rounds, and if Montano can survive, and he'd take over in rounds 4 and 5.
That's why I think she's really better. That's why I personally think for the extra $200, I get 2 more rounds.
Yeah, fair enough. What's your take on? I'm sure you're probably on board. Zabit.
Yeah, well, we talked.
You were saying that you were worried a little bit more about him.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I gotta say, we talked about very briefly about maybe Till's gonna have trouble making weight. I think Brandon Davis is gonna have trouble making weight because screw the short notice thing. It's like, how's he going to make weight with those balls of steel? Like, who takes a fight with Zabit Magomedsharipov on a week's notice? Oh, man. All props in the world go to Brandon Davis. But the thing is, he's 1-2 in the UFC and hasn't looked particularly great. You talked about the fact like how Bochniak soundly out-wrestled him. And then Barzola, who soundly out-wrestles a lot of guys, shows you the same glimpses. Like, when he wanted to strike with him, it was somewhat competitive. But then Brandon Davis landed a couple good punches, and Barzola, who, again, has no ring IQ either, would just be like, I need the takedown, and would get the takedown. That's the key to beating Davis. He's a scrappy, in-your-face, tough guy. Good striker, athletic guy, used to play college football. Alan Belcher guy, and if we see the mold from those guys, Chase Sherman and Jason Knight, like these guys are scrappy, man. They're here to fight. But as far as a technical point of view goes, Magomedsharipov's got him beat everywhere. It's similar to Shevchenko fighting that I can't find anywhere that Brandon Davis has a distinctive advantage. He's not a better wrestler. He's not a better striker. He doesn't have the better cardio. He doesn't have the submission game to maybe catch the beat in something in transition. So it all makes for a long night, I would say short night because maybe he's going to get caught in Darce choke or something. But with Zabit, he's got stylish strikes, but they don't have the most power. Like Mike Santiago took some hellacious shots, but he took them. Kyle Bochniak showed me what you're not faster than Zabit. you're not stronger than Zabit. You're not a better striker. You're not a better wrestler. You don't have a better gas tank. But Kyle Bochniak has more heart and had maybe a better chin. I don't know. But at best, he was a grittier fighter. And he gave it everything to get soundly beaten 30-27 across the board. That's what toughness will get you. And that's the only thing I could see Brandon Davis bringing into this fight, is that he might be a tough guy. He might be the kind of guy that can take those punches and stand up to it. Would I take a poke at the over 2.5? Yeah, Price is right on it. I probably would take a poke at 2.5. He's on short notice. That's not going to bode well for him. He's going to make weight, of course. But he's going to have a tough time because he's on a week notice. And he's jumping right into the lion's den against a guy like Zabit, who I've pegged as a future world champion. I think a lot of guys have pegged as, you know, something special. And the only one thing we haven't seen Zabit show us yet is how good's he off his back if you can ground him consecutively and keep him down. But that ain't Davis's game. UFC, when we talk about marketing, we talked about it a little briefly earlier, like why is Suarez not on the pay-per-view? There's a reason why Zabit is. There's a reason why, even though there was a week out to this fight, they salvaged it. There's a reason why they explored all options. John Lineker's thinking about jumping up and taking this fight. They like this kid. He's Russian, which is a market they're trying to jump into. He's very, very talented. He's got a very unique body type, 6'1" and 145 pounds. Crazy. And he seems to have it. And you're building stars. You're building stars for those specific demographics. Let's get this kid an easy win. And Brandon Davis, no offense to him, likely goes 1-3 here. Doesn't get cut because he did them a favor. But all the same, like, this isn't a great spot for Davis. So yeah, I think Zabit wins across the board. The only thing is, he uses the wrestling. I think you mentioned that, and I agree with that point. Uses the wrestling. You know, pieces him up long enough to have Brandon Davis say, fuck it, I'm tired of getting eaten up on the outside.
I'm rushing in.
I'm going to go in. As soon as he goes in, he's got, it's not even just like he doesn't have a blast double. He's so goddamn tall. He's got outside trips for days. He's got trips. He's got throws. He's just a very tough guy to deal with. Takes him down. Davis survives. This fight goes 3. Zabit scores a decent enough, but not enough to justify the $9,400 price tag. So I'll take the extra $200 and take Shevchenko.
Interesting enough. Let's move on down. We've got Jessica Andrade taking on Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Andrade, 9,100 on DraftKings, minus 425 favorite. Kowalkiewicz is 7,100 and plus 340. Who you got, Code?
See, I got Andrade. I think a lot of, you know, especially looking at these early fights, and that's why the question of the week is who's going to shit in the apple pie. Like, doesn't it seem like we're in agreement on a lot of these early fights? You've got big favorites here. So how could one of these big favorites possibly blow? But they're big favorites because they match up stylistically so well with the opponent. Andrade is just way stronger than Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She'll back her up. She'll use that aggression, that forward pressure. But above all else, she took down Tecia Torres 10 times. And Torres is actually hard to track down. She's short, she's compact, she's strong, and she moves. And this Karolina will back straight up. She's not a young prospect getting better every time we see her. She's like 32 years old. She'll back up, not because that's part of the game plan, but you have no choice but to back up against Andrade. She'll feed her the jab. She's going to hit Andrade. Andrade will get punched on the way to going in, landing 2 punches that are going to be way heavier than the 5 she just ate, and then probably securing takedowns. And when she's on the ground, I mean, I don't want to say something special, but like, yeah, at 115 pounds for women, it was her and Claudia Gadelha. She's proven to be the better version of Claudia. She beat Claudia. She takes girls down. Look what she did to Calderwood.
115 Lineker, but with takedowns.
With Calderwood, it was like, down you go. Calderwood got back up. No, down you go. And now you're submitted. Like, she wants you down. It just doesn't seem like... This is a girl that fought at 135 and tossed Raquel Pennington over her head like it was 80s pro wrestling. She is so unbelievably strong. We talk about people making weight class changes and it being the right weight. This is the right weight class. Save for the loss to Joanna, which she did not look good in. She has her way. And Karolina does not have the angles as Joanna. She doesn't have the sharp counter punching. She got a decent jab, which I'll admit will probably hit Andrade on the way in. But it doesn't have stopping power. It doesn't have stinging power.
That's not gonna stop her from moving forward.
Yeah.
Can she fish a submission on the ground? We did see Andrade get caught against Marion Renault way back when.
At 135 pounds, and Marion Renault was a high-level
when you're way smaller and way less experienced, I think it's a different fighter. I don't even think that's a fair comparison. I was just bringing it up as like, what is the possible? Is there a possible way?
Well, it's a possible way for me. What I think back is like, hey, Andrade, the way she fights, like, tire her out in those first 2 rounds, make her work, and then take advantage. The 2 problems there is, one, even if Carolina happened to tire out Andrade over the first two, she's not finishing in the third. I don't see it happening. Carolina has traditionally gotten taken down in most of her fights and struggles against the superior grappler. And this is not a superior grappler like, oh, she's just going to get the takedown. She's going to get the takedown, and then she's going to employ her world-class Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills to just keep you grounded, hopefully try to pound you away. So that scenario is out for it. The second scenario is tire this girl out and maybe knock her out, maybe hurt her. Again, I don't see it happening, but dude, look at her versus Angela Hill. Angela Hill gives her actually a tasty little test.
Well,
at the end of the third round,
she takes a
Andrade's
severe beating.
Yeah, but it's like, damn, Andrade is like pedal to the metal 15 minutes into this fight. So again, outside of her fight with Johnny and Jacek,
the gas tank isn't even really a thing. Like that's been so overblown over the years.
So she seems to roll. So again, I have another fight here where I think Carolina is a much more serviceable test than both Brandon Davis and Nico Montano. You got to give Nico a little bit of respect because she does have the title, but I don't see it. Brandon Davis, a little bit of respect. He stepped up. He's not the world's worst fighter. He's not the worst guy in the UFC, but this is too much of a task. At least with Carolina, it's like, okay, I got a top 5 fighter here who's got a full camp, who's ready to roll and could potentially do something, but I don't see it. And I would love to try to get some extra value by saying Andrade by decision. She got a sneaky good submission game. And Claudia Gadelha fought Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She took her down easily, and she submitted her pretty fucking easily in the first round.
Yep.
So I don't think she's going to submit her very easily in the first round, but there's a possibility.
Yep.
Or she catches her with that guillotine in the second. Or she takes her down and she puts that Balboa constrictor rear naked choke on her in the third. So I'm not feeling the decision for Andrade necessarily, but except for a brain fart moment, she should just stick to the game plan that she always sticks to, and she wins this fight.
Yep. Let's move on down the card. We got Abdul Razak ALHASSAN taking on Nico Price. ALHASSAN 8,300 on DraftKings, -145 favorite. Nico Price is 7,900 plus 125.
This is a good bit of matchmaking, my friend.
This is a fun fight, man.
This is a great fight.
This is a DraftKings. This is the type of fight that, unless you feel really, really, if you feel really good about one side of it, good on you. But either way, you want a lot of exposure on DraftKings to this fight because someone's getting hurt, someone's getting finished very, very likely, and it's going to be high paced because that's just the way these guys fight. Nico Price, every single fight, he can
talk about a guy that's costing me a lot of money.
Yeah,
Nico Price.
I actually finally got him right for the first time last time.
Yeah.
So we're on a good path with Nico Price here. I just think it's going to be a war. It's one of those like there's a dust cloud basically of two guys going at it. We saw Sabah Masi versus ALHASSAN, and we saw it twice. And in the first fight, Masi did pretty well. In the second fight, the better man won when they ran it back. And I've never been all that impressed by Nico Price, but the guy has comeback ability, I guess you can say.
He is the comeback kid. That's probably a term that gets thrown out. This guy embodies that. And
it's tough to pick up games, so I'm going to pick ALHASSAN. It's a gun to the head type of situation. I'm going to have on DraftKings, these guys are going to be in every single lineup.
You got to play both.
I'm going to have every single lineup that I have out there is going to have one or the other. I just can't see how these guys, especially priced around here, how they don't end up, at least maybe they don't end up on the optimal lineup, but they're not going to kill you. If you have the winner in one of your lineups, that guy's point output is not going to sewer your whole lineup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just think ALHASSAN just has a little bit more power on the feet. I know Nico Price
a lot more power.
I just think that his power is going to matter here.
Yeah.
He's got the judo black belt.
That is true.
As his background, Nico Price, I don't think is going to be able to drag this to the ground. But shit, Nico Price is the type of guy who will, if he was a big favorite, which he isn't, he is the ultimate shit in the apple pie. Like, he doesn't actually shit, but he serves the pie out there.
He forces you to shit in the pie.
Exactly.
You're like, no, I don't want to do that to Cody. And no option.
So
he's on his back, throwing up hammer fists, forcing the shit out of people into the pie.
I just think this fight stays on the feet. ALHASSAN has more power. His gas tank may be a bit of an issue, but I think he's improved that. We've seen that in some of his more recent performances. I think if it stays on the feet, eventually he clips him and finishes it off. But I'm not 100% sold on that either. Nico Price is the comeback kid for a reason, so that could totally happen.
Yeah, I see. I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't here. Because if I go and take Nico Price, like, he'll lose. I know it. I've gone against him so many times. If I finally open my eyes to the light, he's gonna lose. If I take Alhassan, Nico Price going Nico Price. So this is a tough spot. I think, obviously, yeah, both guys have some merit to it. You know, it's really interesting with Razak Alhassan is that he's 9-1. He's had 9 victories. All 9 of those wins come in the very first round. You talk about GPP. You talk about having this guy in half of your rosters, needing one of the two. Yeah, he embodies GPP, man. He goes out there and he slings leather. His UFC debut against Charlie Ward, he fucking killed him. The fight with Saba Hamasi, he got dropped. Then he was in the process of killing him before, legal strike, and then they run it back, and then he kills him. The guy is a massive amount of power, right? He comes from that judo background. That is his base. He is a black belt. He is actually tough to get down. You really got to work to get him down. But the guy wants to stand and strike, and he's got the kind of power that anybody stands in front of him. He's not the most technical guy, but anybody stands in front of him, he lands that bad boy flush on your chin. It's going to hurt. The thing is that he has no cardio. You mentioned he has no cardio. You mentioned that it looked like he was making those improvements. How do you know? He's been finishing guys in the first round. The only fight he's ever lost was against Amari Akhmedov. Is the only fight he's ever been in that went past 1 round.
But he started. Well, I guess that.
In
fairness,
he blasts Akhmedov.
Akhmedov in round 3 kind of slows down as well. So he kind of looked like he was coming on in round 3, but I guess in fairness to your claim,
tired too.
Exactly. That's always something that we always say about him.
Yeah, and Akhmedov, he comes from the Sambo background. He's not exactly the cleanest wrestler, strong guy, but he's able to just back up Alhassan against the cage and then make him work. And, going for those takedowns kind of tires him out. Getting those takedowns and forcing him to work his way back up. I thought Akhmedov won that fight. I thought he did win the first 2 rounds. Sorry, I thought he won 2 of the 3 rounds. And when he was losing, he was getting pieced up. This would be the same thing with Nico Price. Not Nico Montano. Hopefully she never has to fight Al-Hassan. But with Nico Price, is that he's super easy to hit in the first round. The thing is, if you don't put him in the first round, he's still there. He likes to wrestle. He should not be able to take down Al-Hassan, right? I don't think so. But if Al-Hassan is tired, then yes, Nico Price will get him down. If Al-Hassan gets taken down and Nico Price ends up on top of him, he's got a decent rear naked choke. He's got an okay submission game. He keeps putting it to you. Remember when Price fought Brendan Thatch? I thought Thatch was going to kill him. And Thatch was killing him, standing. Till he got taken down. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as he got taken down, he's a fish out of water. And I almost feel like Alhassan is in the exact same position. He's a much better striker. He's got a lot more power. He will dice up Price in the first round. But how often does Price get knocked out in the first round? Doesn't really happen. He usually hangs around long enough to turn the fight in his favor. The only time we've seen him get finished pretty clean, Vicente Luque caught him with a Darce choke in the second round. But that's not on the table with Alhassan. He's not going to submit him. He's either going to knock him out or he's going to gas out trying to knock him out. When you're 9-1 and all 9 of your victories are first round finishes, that's how you fight. And he's not exactly some young guy that's going to change that game plan. That's how he fights. He's built, he's a thick dude, and it requires a lot of oxygen. It's just simple science, really. He's going to gas out. The question is he going to knock out Nico Price before he gasses out? I think skill-wise, this guy's way better than Price. Like I mentioned, he's a better striker. His judo is going to keep the fight standing, and he's going to piece him away. But the cardio is an X factor that it's hard to gauge. Is he going to gas, or do I just think he's going to gas? But Price is the kind of guy that can push a weird pace on you that causes you to gas. Even when, he's down a round or down 2 rounds, he's still in it. He's still throwing bombs. He's still trying to knock you out. He got that KO victory at 4:59 of round 2. Body sprawled out against the cage, knocked out. It's like he's got some power. He's got some submissions. He's got some cardio. And the guy just keeps going for it, right? I mean, he's on his back in his last fight. On his back. Lands a couple hammer fists. Changed the tide against Randy Brown. Randy Brown never seen it coming. Most people at home didn't see it coming. So maybe he gets taken down here again. But he doesn't get taken down and accept the position. He doesn't get taken down and flop out. He gets taken down and he starts throwing punches. And he starts trying to get back up. And he tries to throw a submission to create a scramble to get back up. And that's all exhausting. So I'm likely to kind of pass towards this. This is a dangerous fight. But on a card where I am going to take Till, Shevchenko's a big favorite. Zabit's a big favorite. Andrade's a big favorite. Who's my first dog here? Nico Price, plus 125. You could do worse. So I'm keeping some options open for Nico Price. I think you nailed it with DraftKings. If you're going to play multiple lineups, probably have both guys in it. But as far as the straight pick goes, I probably just Safticked him, but I'm going with Nico Price.
Ooh. I look forward to our mentions after Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. I couldn't even say that. Abdul Razak Al-Hassan's first round knockout when the Saftak and the apple pie,
of course,
all the apple pie
of
gifts
course.
start flying in.
I basically sat here and told you
We set ourselves
Luke
up
Sanders
for these things.
is very plausibly shits in the apple pie.
We did,
And then
it.
he does. And then George Sullivan, what the fuck was I thinking? But and could he have looked any worse, man? Like, come on, he just gave it away. So hopefully this is not a case of that. And literally, I've gotten one Nico Price fight right.
Yeah.
When he lost to
It's
Luke.
okay.
Very hard to gauge this guy, but his style of hanging around long enough to make a comeback would work on a guy like Al-Hassan, who needs to not give you a chance to make that comeback.
We've got Tatiana Suarez taking on Carlos Esparza. Tatiana Suarez, 9,200 in DraftKings and a minus 550 favorite. Carlos Esparza, 7,000 and plus 425. My main girl, Tatiana Suarez, female Khabib. She's getting respect. She's getting respect from the books. She's getting number one contender type of stats. Taking on a former champion here. But really, when I look at it, what's Carla going to do? What's she going to do? She's not going to be able to take her down. No. I've seen some people go, well, she was able to knock down Gadella with her power. Just like 150, 115, we talk about it all the time. I'm not worried about that one-punch knockout power. Even with Jessica Andrade, who has probably some of the most power in that division. Like, that's the one person I would be slightly concerned about having power. Like, the fact that Carlos Esparza knocked down Gadella doesn't worry me about what could happen to Suarez here. Honestly, I think we continue to see the rise of Suarez. But I have been a bit of a mark for Tatiana Suarez over the years, so maybe you can talk some reason into me. But give me Suarez all day.
Yeah, okay, so the reasoning is that this is a bad stylistical matchup for her. She's the wrestler.
who?
For Suarez.
It's bad for both of them.
No, it favors Suarez, I think. I think this fight favors her as far as style clashes go. And what I'm saying here is that if you're Tatiana Suarez, you are the wrestler of the division. You know, you see those stupid memes all the time, and it's like it shows all the UFC champions like wrestler. They illustrate how wrestling is the dominant art form, right? It's the dominant martial art. How many UFC champions don't have a wrestling base go on to win a UFC title? But women's 115 is that division where it's still all strikers. Who are the top girls in the division? Rose, Joanna, Tisha Torres. These are all strikers or jiu-jitsu practitioners. None of them come from a wrestling base. Suarez does. She's the wrestler of the group. That's her big advantage over opponents. Esparza is the only other real wrestler. Ronda Marcos, yes. But
we're talking different levels. There's levels to the game.
Different levels.
As Cody Saftic likes to say.
I agree. There's different levels to the game. But traditionally speaking, Carlos Esparza has good takedown defense. She is tough to take down. She's a very scrappy fighter. And what we've noticed, I'm not an Esparza guy. You know that above everybody. But when we notice in recent performances is that she's got some give. Her striking is god-awful. But she's working on it, man. And she's trying. And she's putting combinations together. She wings a lot of punches. Like, huge opening wings punches. But if you're not a great counterpuncher, you can't capitalize on an opportunity. She just keeps pushing on you. Against Claudia Gadelha, I was all in on Claudia Gadelha. In fact, that would have been a terrible night had Claudia Gadelha lost that fight. And you know, in some ways, Claudia Gadelha did lose that fight. Carlos Esparza put it on her. Carlos Esparza hurt her. Carlos Esparza pushed her. She sucked out the gas out of the tank. And she, forced a fight out of that. Now, as good as she looked in that fight, it's hard for me to say, gee, she looked really good against Claudia. She'll look good against Suarez. Because it's a different fight altogether. And also, Claudia Gadelha is a weird scientific anomaly. I'll never be able to explain it. Human beings have a set of organs, right? And Claudia Gadelha appears to not have a heart. So I don't really know how this girl's able to function in day-to-day activity not having a heart. And Carlos Esparza proved in that fight, this girl, deep water, will crack and quit, as she typically does, took her to those deep waters and got shafted on a decision. It is what it is. I can't disrespect Carlos Esparza here, as I always do, in that if this fight stays standing, Suarez is shit on the feet. We don't see her on the feet because she takes everybody down. But here's the first time where she's taking on an opponent that could theoretically stuff the takedown. And if the takedown gets stuffed, Suarez has now got to throw punches with a girl who her last couple fights has clearly been working on the strategy of just throw punches. She's probably a slightly more refined striker than Suarez. So I have to rely on the fact that Suarez is bigger than Esparza. She's stronger than Esparza. She is a better wrestler than Esparza. She needs to get those takedowns. But am I convinced for the price tag of $550 that she's just going to have her way and take her down at will? Like, Esparza is a good wrestler. She's one of the only other girls in the division that wrestled in college, that has pursued it. All the footage in her training camps is her wrestling with girls that are current All-Americans, girls that are taking a run for national titles. Like, she keeps with it. That's her path to victory against these lower-end fighters, is she's the wrestler. She can take you down. Against Suarez, it's wrestler versus wrestler. And then a lot of times when we see wrestler versus wrestler, it cancels itself out into a shitty striking match. And do I want to put $550 on Suarez to use her hands, which I've seen very little of her using? It's risky. We talked about who's going to shit in the apple pie. And I don't want to say Suarez because I'm sold in this girl. But out of all the other options, she's the only one that's got a bad stylistical matchup. ZABIT's got a heavenly stylistical matchup. Shevchenko's got a heavenly stylistical matchup. Andrade all day. This is a bad stylistical matchup. So I think Suarez wins. I don't like the price tag for $9,200. I don't like it because if it's takedowns, you got to do something with the takedown, and I don't think that's going to be done. I think it's going to go 15 minutes, and I think if Suarez wins, it's Suarez winning on top. If Suarez loses, it's her realizing she's lost on the feet, and Carlos Esparza just doing a little bit more and just edging her out. This could be a split decision. This could be one of those wonky-ass split decisions where one judge goes 30-27 Suarez and two judges go 29-28 Esparza. But I'm seeing risk, and with Carla, I always fade this bitch. The fact that I'm seeing risk on a Carla fight makes me very nervous. So I think I might be passing on this. Or just take fight to go to the decision, which I'm very positive it should go to decision.
I think we're going to see wrestling, basically just the different levels be exemplified. It's like when Khabib takes on other guys who have a wrestling background. They're talking about when he went in against Michael Johnson. Oh, Michael Johnson was like a junior college, a standout. Just like, it doesn't matter. When you're talking world class versus collegiate level, it's a big, big step up. And I think that's what we're going to see in this fight. Obviously, we disagree. You've got Esparza.
I'm not saying I'm going to take
Let me finish.
Okay.
You say Esparza is the most likely to, has the highest likelihood of being the apple pie shitter.
Pain's going to say that.
I know.
But I think so.
I think we're just going to see a complete different level. And I've been saying it for a long time. I think Suarez is the actual champion at this 115 pounds. So we'll see if I'm right or if I'm wrong. Let's move on to the bantamweight division. We have Aljamain Sterling taking on Cody Stamann. Aljamain Sterling, 8,500 on DraftKings and a minus 135 favorite. Cody Stamann is 7,700 and plus 115. Who you got?
Okay, so now we're getting to the portion of the card that we're done with the big favorites, and you're going to start seeing a lot of these close-ass fights, and that's exactly what we have first on tap here. Aljamain Sterling versus Cody Stamann. I talked about the last fight with Suarez and Esparza that maybe wrestling nullifies itself out, and I think that's what happens here. Cody Stamann is a wrestler by trade, been working on his boxing a lot, forward movement, likes to pressure ever so slightly. Not exactly a full-on pressure fighter, but a guy that's willing to go out there and exchange. Aljamain Sterling, again, comes from a wrestling background, junior college national champion, I believe. And as far as MMA goes, he wrestles a little bit, but it's mostly just the fancy-ass one-and-done strikes, man. Kick on the outside, move. Long-ass jab, move. Maybe set up the right hand, move. Lot of movement with this guy, a lot of movement. But a lot of the time, he can kind of lull you into coming after him and then get the takedown. I don't think he's going to take down Stamann. I definitely don't think Stamann's going to take down Sterling, so we have a striking battle. I think Sterling's a better striker than Stamann is. Stamann's going to have more volume. And this is going to come down to who's watching the fight as a judge. Are you going to go with the guy that's got the flashy techniques and is landing some good strikes? Are you going to go for the guy that's chomping on his bit, going in there, closing the distance, roughing him up, trying to make this dirty even though he's not going to have the speed advantage? Athleticism, it's going to go to Sterling. Speed, and I think that's kind of looped in with athleticism, Sterling. Power, neither guy's really got any power. Wrestling, let's say it's nullified. Grappling to Sterling, but if the fight never hits the ground, what does the grappling matter? You've got two guys that are okay stand-up fighters that are going to have a stand-up battle because I don't think either guy's going to be able to get the fight to the ground. Part of me says Sterling. I look at Sterling, I look at the fact that minus 135. This is a guy that was viewed as a top 10 prospect. He was viewed as somebody who was going to be the next big thing. Bellator tried to make a nice conditional offer to him, and UFC came up, and they matched the price. And he hasn't looked great since then. I mean, he gets in these close fights, and he just gives them away. The Brian Caraway fight was an embarrassment. You know, like, you should be going out here and don't quit on yourself, man. Don't get out grappled and quit on yourself. But it happens.
Caraway makes everyone look pretty bad, though. Stamen didn't look like some sort of world beater in the.
No, you're right. Caraway is very difficult.
He makes everybody have
the only
a
person,
fight where they don't look their best.
No, the only person that's looked good next to Caraway is Miesha Tate, and she's not. But all jokes aside, yeah, no, it's hard to look good against him. Both guys fought him. Both guys didn't look great. One guy at least got a victory, but we're not playing MMA math here. We're looking at the fact that if this stays standing, who's the better striker? I think Sterling. But I gotta go the punch output and the volume to Cody James Stamen. You know I always go with him. His name's Cody. His initials, CJS, same as me. How could you not go for this guy? And he's looked good, man. I mean, he's technically undefeated as far as I'm concerned, because he's what, 17-1? Sorry, he is officially 17-1. Yeah. He's only lost Eric Vo. Bullshit decision, man. Bullshit. Back in the Michigan Regional. Shouldn't have happened. He could be 18-0. He's good looking. He can wrestle. He's got all the skills. Why not? Why isn't this guy the prospect? Why aren't we all talking about this guy? He smoked Duquesnoy, who was a prospect. Terry O'Mara, serviceable guy. He moved up a weight class. They're both up a weight class, but you know what I mean? Hey, this guy's got the goods. Beats Caraway as a top 15 guy. Like, why aren't we rallying behind Stamen? Like, I don't know. I don't think he's getting the respect he deserves. He can go out there and he can win this fight. But in that same breath, I think Sterling can as well. And if I'm thinking both guys are somewhat similar, but one guy's got a distinctive speed advantage and a distinctive, it's multi-speed. The movement, his footwork, and his ability to shoot the jab and get the fuck out of there. Like in his last fight, that was one big thing for him. I thought, okay, if Brett Johns tracks him down, Brett Johns going to make this a dirty fight. If you're slow and you're plotting, you're not going to track him down. Stamen's not slow and plotting, but he fights the kind of game plan that he moves forward and doesn't particularly cut off angles all that great. So Sterling just outpoints him, and I need two of the judges to like that style. If they like the forward movement and aggression, then Stamen's going to get the decision. So
yeah,
I hate passing on fights. This is a dicey-ass fight.
Dicey completely. I don't think it's really a type of fight that you really want to target on DraftKings whatsoever, to be perfectly honest.
No, I don't think either guy is going to score big, and the price is okay on Stamen at 77.
Yeah, if I'd have to, I'd be more likely to roster Stamen.
Save some
just because he's 7,700, 8,500 for a fight that we think is going to go 3 rounds. It's going to be a close decision. Like, where do you make up those points? Especially if both of the wrestling kind of negate each other and ends up on the feet. Like, this is the type of fight that doesn't score.
Low scoring striking.
So we're both on the same page, essentially, on that one. We move on down the card. We've got Jimmy Rivera taking on John Dodson. Rivera, 8,400 on DraftKings, minus 150 favorite. Dodson, 7,800 and plus 130. What's your take here?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the time when we think about fighters that could be shot, we always look at their chin. Is their chin gone? If their chin's gone, then they're shot. But there's a lot more that goes into being a shot fighter. I think it's your reflexes. I think it's your power. They always say power's the last thing to go, but these guys that are used to going out there and touching their opponents go out there and they don't have the same power anymore. They can't take the punch. They're slower athletes. John Dodson's chin is not gone, but he's starting to remind me of a shot fighter. And what I mean by that is he had two things that nobody could lay claim to. He was the pound for pound heaviest puncher in the UFC, and if you don't give him that title, then he was the hardest hitting flyweight in the UFC, and nobody could take that away from him.
I could also say that he was the fastest guy.
And that was the second thing he had. He was the fastest guy in the UFC,
yep.
He was the fastest guy at flyweight, the fastest division in the UFC. This guy's, he can do a standing front flip. He's super athletic. He's so fast. He touches. TJ Dillashaw got crumpled like a cheap tent. This guy's got it. Almost beats Demetrius Johnson. The Demetrius Johnson. Drops him twice. Rematch, not quite as good. But John Dodson's got it. But the thing is, he exhausts his options at 125. He wasn't going to fight DJ again. Well, what's he going to do? Stay and beat the same old contenders? So he goes to 135. The thing is, at 135, you think the speed would translate with him. But he's not as fast as he used to be. You can get this guy. He has the same game plan. Touch and go. But you can track this guy down now all of a sudden. And the power's not there anymore, dude. He's hitting these 35ers. They can take the punch. He has not shown off a high degree of power in his last 4 or 5 fights. It just doesn't seem there anymore. So the problem is now we've got Dodson, who's a little slower, who his 2 X factors are off the table, and he's fighting at 135 pounds. Now, it's crazy to think the speed's not there, but I just want to talk real quickly about Roy Jones Jr. He's the fastest boxer at 168 pounds, super middleweight. The guy's untouchable. You can't touch him, and he's got power for days. Why wasn't he a fast light heavyweight? Why wasn't he a fast cruiserweight? Because he was shot by moving the weight classes. This is 10 pounds between 25 and 35, but your body don't handle it the same. So I think I just kind of feel like he shot his body a little bit. If he was to go back to 125, he wouldn't have the same speed, he wouldn't have the same power. The fact is he's at 135 and it's a lot more noticeable because he's taking on guys that can take those punches. Yeah. So Jimmy Rivera's coming off a terrible fight, but it's a terrible fight you got to give him a pass in. He got caught, smoked in the face. Marlon Moraes, tough guy, very early. It is what it is. But traditionally, he cuts off angles really good. His low kick, that is custom made to slow down a guy like Dodson that's going to try to move laterally. His ability to move guys against the cage, Dodson likes going to the cage. And Dodson's counter-reactive wrestling, not going to work against Jimmy. So I think Jimmy just goes through the motions. Jimmy just wins a 30-27, maybe a 29-28. But I don't think this is high scoring because it's hard to score high against Dodson. He's always moving backwards. I don't like Dodson to clip Jimmy, even though we just saw Jimmy get clipped. I'm not favoring that. And like I said, Jimmy goes through the motions, gets the decision. 8,400, I don't love it. The minus 130, minus 150, sorry, I don't mind it. I'm going to play Jimmy Rivera. I'll have him parlay in some spots. I can't go everywhere on him. It's not like he's a huge favorite. It's not like I love him. But I'm almost fading Dodson as much as I'm saying Jimmy Rivera is a top 5 guy, and he is.
Well, Dodson's like, what, 36 years old right now? Maybe even,
yeah, in a weight class where youth
where
and
speed matters.
Ever.
If you're heavyweights, age doesn't really matter as much because speed isn't as pertinent. Speed is like the first thing to go, and that was his one big advantage. Now he goes up a division, so he's giving up size, and he doesn't really have the speed that he used to. He's still fast, don't get me wrong.
Fast, but not
like we saw against Lineker, even at 135 pounds. It's just like Lineker, now that was a dicey fight, don't get me wrong, but Lineker was able to move forward. And Dodson wasn't as mobile as, like, if we went a couple years before that when he was fighting Demetrius Johnson at 125 pounds. His speed, he would have been gone. He would be one of the only guys who could get away from that pressure of John Lineker, because that's generally, if you can fight off your back foot and go off on angles, like that's how you can beat, or if you can take him down like TJ Dillashaw and control him and dominate from there, that's how you beat John Lineker. But that was kind of a telltale sign that this guy's speed is kind of gone. Yeah. And I think this is a type of fight, Rivera, Dodson, another fight that we were talking about with the previous fight. You don't really want much of this on DraftKings either, because the winner I just see scoring like 60 points. Yeah. Maybe 60, 55, 60, like that's not going to get done in GPPs. Yeah.
You talked about the Dodson fight against John Lineker, and in many ways a more recent fight for John Dodson against Marlon Moraes. Like, this is, again, it's a dicey fight. I'm not saying he's no good. Is that he's in dicey fights and he's not getting the nod in these dicey fights. But against Marlon Moraes, people will say, well, Cody, you're talking about his power is gone like he hurt Moraes. Moraes recovered really quick, man. And those are punches that used to put guys down. Now guys can recover. Now guys can take those punches. But when Dodson fought TJ Dillashaw at 135, John Dodson was twice as fast as TJ Dillashaw. Just a fact. He was way faster. If they were to rematch right now at 135, they're the same speed. I don't think John Dodson is no faster than TJ Dillashaw. I don't think he is. And so that to me is, Dillashaw got better over the years. And Dodson regressed over the years. And now he's into the fire with a young, hungry, embarrassed contender who really wants to get that sour taste of that first loss, that first legitimate loss out of his mouth. He's got something to prove. And Dodson is not aggressive enough. He backs up a lot of the time. And as a judge, when you watch one guy back up the entire time and the other guy coming after him, well, I would lean towards the guy that's aggressive. And by that same thought process, pick Cody Stammen over Sterling. It just depends who the 3 judges are, really. But this should be a close enough fight that I can't back Dodson anymore. I got to go with Jimmy.
All right, we got we have Charles Byrd taking on Darren Stewart. Charles Byrd, 8,900 on DraftKings, minus 225 favorite. Darren Stewart is 7,300 and plus 185. What's your take here?
Yeah, I mean, we got another middling fighters in a middling division. They're both just trying to, put themselves on the map a little bit here. Darren Stewart probably feels like $1 million after getting that first real victory under his belt, where it's like, oh man, all the layoffs and the injuries and the shitty no contest against Francois Barroso and then losing to Francois Barroso legitimately. I bet you he feels good. I bet you he's got some fire in his belly, but he's going right back up against another grappler, and that just doesn't bode well for Darren Stewart. Darren Stewart beating Eric Spicely is one thing, because Eric Spicely will attempt to take you down, and if it doesn't work, he's done.
And you know that there's only one pass with Spicely.
Yeah.
That's the only
He's going
thing
to take you
drill,
down and
'cause
choke
he's got
you
nothing
out,
else.
or that's it. He showed up in terrible physical shape. He was in Darren Stewart's backyard, and Darren Stewart stuffed enough takedowns for Spicely to topple over, and then he punched him out. Yeah, I actually called that one. I don't think you were on the same page, but yeah,
Spicely.
I was on that one. Spicely is one of those guys you fade, even against Darren Stewart.
Yeah.
So he gets the victory here. That's Spicely for you. With Charles Byrd, he seems to look okay. I mean, John Phillips is a big power puncher. Jason Knight submits him. Randall Wallace on Dana White's Contender Series. Randall Wallace is Buddy Wallace.
Phillips had nothing.
Yeah.
Like Phillips' ground game. But the thing about Darren
Phillips
Stewart
is bad on the ground. Darren Stewart is bad on the ground too.
I ended up cashing out on Julian Marquez versus Darren Stewart by submission, which was like 11-1. Why? Julian Marquez didn't have a single submission in his career. But we're talking about Darren Stewart, who had just previously got submitted by a kickboxer. This guy, when he gets to the ground, has nothing. He has nothing on the ground.
That's
and we
the
saw
problem.
from Byrd. Byrd just went right across, took down John Phillips, took him down, found the submission. It was over before it even started. So I think it's hard to give Stewart any sort of credit. Stewart doesn't belong at this level. Let's call a spade a spade.
Stewart does not belong at this level. He's generally here for the European market to have him hopefully excite some European fans, and he ain't in that market. They're bringing him over here to do the do against Charles Byrd, and that's what he's here to do. If he wants to strike. He's the dentist. He wants to rearrange your teeth. That's the whole gimmick. They don't give him strikers, and I think it's funny when they do give him strikers. Those strikers are just submitting him. Carl Robertson is a pro kickboxer. He submits him. And Julian Marquez, it was a front choke in the second round. A front choke, not a guillotine, a front choke. Because Darren Stewart was so fucking tired of getting punched in the face and trying to counter that he basically toppled over and was like, okay, I'm done here. I think the exact same thing happens out of Byrd. Byrd submits him. 8,900 is a big price tag, but Byrd's won his last 4 fights by first round finish. So you're welcome for a GPP play who's less than $9,000 and has a good stylistical matchup on the table. This is your guy.
And he may fly under the radar with all of these big, huge, massive favorites at the top. Maybe this is like in that is 8,900 in these high 8,000s range. This could be something that just gets negated because people spend up for ZABIT. They spend up for Shevchenko. They spend up for Suarez. They spend up for Andrade. And this little range here is where it sneaks under the radar. They end up being really low on because you can't really afford all of them. You can't, if you take 2 of those people above 9,000, you kind of have to avoid the 8,000s altogether with the rest of your roster. So
if you need any other convincing, Charles Byrd is from Texas. This is his hometown fight. And they've paired him up against a guy that what Byrd does well is what this guy does poorly in your backyard. Get the fans excited. Go out there and finish him. Dare I say one of the worst guys on the UFC roster in Darren Stewart. If this was a striking bout, it'd be different, right? This is him taking on a grappler, and we know how poorly he is at grappling. So unless Charles Byrd gasses out trying, and as I mentioned, he finished 4 guys in the first round, his last 4 fights, maybe he gasses out if he doesn't get it right away. But I think he just takes him back down. The last point, I know I'm going way too long in this fight, is Byrd can also stand. Like, he's competent as a kickboxer as well. It's just he seems to finish guys on the ground. Whereas Stewart is competent as a kickboxing, but can't grapple. So if for whatever reason Byrd doesn't get the submission, he can still strike with this guy. You know what I mean? Whereas if Stewart does get taken down, he can't grapple with this guy. He can barely grapple with anybody. So I got to think Byrd gets the job done. 8,900 I'm willing to play with. And as far as the straight betting line, it's really not that bad. Minus 225 if you like him. But, you got middling bets here. So.
We got Craig White taking on Diego Sanchez. Is he the dream or the nightmare this time around? He says that he's going on a title run, which is kind of like, come on, Diego, let's settle down a little bit here.
You know, the strange thing about that is on the heels of him making the comment that he's getting ready for a title run, it was also right around the same period that you realize we've officially entered the Craig White stage of Diego Sanchez's career. This is where it's taken us. This magical journey with Diego, which has been a great time, is officially entered the Craig White stage. And that is a scary thought, considering he's a 2-1 underdog.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Diego.
The books are not giving Diego any sort of love, to be perfectly honest. 8,800 for Craig White on DraftKings, minus 230 favorite. Diego Sanchez, 7,400 and plus 190. Listen. I think that this is a ton of recency bias, to be perfectly honest. Diego Sanchez looked awful. Can't take the damage anymore. But we look at who has been sparking him, who has been knocking him out. Matt Brown, for the best part of his career, a top 10 guy. Before that, he got knocked out by ALHASSAN, who's just like a criminally underrated guy. Won 5 rounds with Khabib. Super, super tough guy. Craig White fucking sucks, man. I don't see anything on tape leading up to his first fight in the UFC. I was just like, this guy's gonna get smashed, and he did. He scored 3 points in that fight. This is a fight that actually Diego Sanchez can win. He can't really, like, his chin is not trustworthy, but like Craig White is more of a grappler who doesn't really have too much power in his hands. I know that Craig White is going to have a big size advantage. He's like 6 foot. I believe he's 6'4".
He's a big guy
at 170, and Diego lists himself at like 6 foot, but like that's a lot.
Oh, Diego's 5'10".
Yeah, either way, but or maybe my numbers are off there. Either way, he's got a 4-inch height advantage over Diego. He's going to be bigger though. Yeah, but I don't see any power in his strikes. We've seen when Diego Sanchez takes on somebody who wants to grapple. Hello, Marcin Held. You don't really have much to scare Diego on the feet, and Diego has a very, very underrated ground game. I think this is just all recency bias. This is totally a fight that Diego Sanchez can win. I will be cheering for Diego Sanchez. I will be rostering Diego Sanchez on DraftKings, and then I will be clenching my butthole because it'll be terrifying the entire way, because I know what I'm getting myself into, but I think that this line is kind of ridiculous, to be perfectly honest. Craig White sucks.
No, I agree with you, dude. This is a very, very strange line. I mean, it's Craig White. If Craig White was not fighting Diego Sanchez right now, who would you pick Craig White against in the UFC? You know, you always like to say the worst guy in the UFC, and Craig White's only just had the one fight, so...
But he looked like the worst guy in the UFC.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, Neil Magny's a tough guy. Taking that on short notice, he said he cut like 40 pounds or something to make the weight, which is crazy. But yeah, you got diced down the first round against Neil Magny. The last 3 fights that he's lost, he's been finished relatively quickly. I think, you know, 2 by knockout, 1 by submission. So there's ways to beat Craig White. He's 14-8. That's not exactly a good record. In fact, they brought him in for his last fight because of the market. You know, he was the local guy, and we need a local guy at the last minute. But this is what happens with these guys. You sign them, they did you a favor, right? And now it's okay, you're in the UFC. How can I use this guy? Well, Diego Sanchez is a fan favorite. He's the only guy that's fighting professionally from season 1 of The Ultimate Fighter. Technically, Chris Liebman's fighting Phil Baroni in a bare-knuckle boxing match. But outside of that, it's like, dude, the guy's been around forever, and he's on a dog run. And we're still making him fight good guys. Why is he fighting Matt Brown? Why is he fighting ALHASSAN? Why is he fighting these guys? Give him Craig White. And you're right, dude, because we had him over Marcin Held. And when we thought about that fight, it was, well, he's taking on a grappler, and maybe his chin's gone. And maybe he's not quite the fighter he used to be in his wrestling and his reflexes, but like, you're not submitting him. Here's a quick little one for you I found very interesting. This is Diego Sanchez's record. Matt Brown's a black belt, but who cares about that? Marcin Held's a black belt. Joe Lozen's a black belt. Jim Miller's a black belt. Ricardo Lamas is a black belt. Miles Jury's a black belt. Gilbert Melendez is a black belt. And then we go a little lower here. We got, BJ Penn's a black belt. Joe Stevens is a black belt. David Bilkeden is a black belt. John Fitch is a black belt. Joe Riggs is currently a black belt. John Alessio is a black belt. Nick Diaz is a black belt. Kenny Florian is a black belt. George Santiago is a black belt. There were 17 black belts that he's fought. They don't submit him. He does not submit. He himself is a black belt. And Craig White's a grappler, dude. Like, that's how he wins fights, is he submits guys. So I don't think it's going to be a submission. the way he wins, and I've seen people mention, this is not my original thought, it's just I want to touch on it. A lot of people say because of the height advantage and Diego Sanchez's susceptibility to eating knees in the clinch, is that he's just going to run into a knee walking in. But that's one fucking move. And we're going to base us betting 2-1 on Craig White on maybe he'll catch him with a knee walking in. Dude,
Yeah,
that's a lot of faith to have in somebody. So I feel like Sanchez is, like I said, his reflexes are gone. He's not the same fighter he used to be. He's a 55er. He looked terrible against Matt Brown, and he's staying at 170 for this fight. And, you know, Craig is a lot bigger than him. So I get the merits to why this should be a close fight, but this is a pick'em fight. And if you want to give me that kind of dog money on Diego Sanchez, I got to take it. I got to say one more. The guy's fired up. He's talking about fighting Cerrone. He's talking about maybe bare knuckle boxing with Leonard Garcia. You know what you got to do before you do that shit? You got to be fucking Craig White, okay? Go be Craig White, and then we can all breathe a sigh of relief. Diego Sanchez got back in the win column. But yeah, it's going to be probably tougher than it should have been 5 years ago. But Craig White should have never made it here. And Diego Sanchez, there's a reason why he's one of the most tenured guys in the UFC. Is like he fights top guys. He shows up to the dance. And even though his chin's not quite what it used to be, it's Craig White. You know, we're not putting him up against a young, hungry power puncher. He's not fighting Mike Perry at 130 pounds. You know, he's fighting Craig White. So just, you know, let that be some food for thought. And the fact that I just brought up Perry, let's mention that really quick. That's a good training partner to have, right? And apparently him and Perry have been working together a lot for this fight. Is that Perry's a big, strong guy, not the most technical. How would you beat Perry? Use your wrestling, use your ring savvy, and, you know, take this guy to where you do best. Well, how are you going to beat Craig White? He's a big, not the most technical guy that maybe just catches you. Well, use your wrestling, dude. Take this guy down. Diego Sanchez in guard is a beautiful thing. It's just he barely gets to guard anymore. He doesn't shoot takedowns. Need him to get back to that. Need him to pressure him. Need him just to work him. Try to get that pace going. And again, hopefully those 3 judges that are watching like tenacity and pressure. And so I'm actually taking Sanchez too. Scary thought we're both on the same page and we're picking Diego Sanchez in 2018. But, you know, you got to pick spots certain times, and this might be the spot. If you're going to take him, you're not taking him against anybody else but Craig White. So I'll think about rostering him up. $7,400, even if he just gets a decision win. A couple takedowns, a little bit of ground and pound. He'll pay for himself. And as far as the plus 190 goes, ooh, that's just going to sauce up the parlays, little straight money bet. I like it, Paul. I like it.
Moving on down the card, we have Alex White taking on Jim Miller. Alex White, 8,600 on DraftKings, minus 145 favorite. Jim Miller, 7,600 plus 125. What's your take here?
Yeah, well, it's kind of similar to the fight that we just broke down. We've got 2 aging veterans. At their best, kill these guys, but are not at their best anymore. Very tenured guys. Both of their opponents have the last name White. Only this time I'm going to go against the aging veteran. I think I got to go with Alex White here. It's just he's a lot bigger. And, you know, takedown defense has been a problem for him. Jim Miller could take this guy down. It's just we always think about Jim Miller for Jim Miller circa 2006, 2007, where it's like, yo, this guy's a good wrestler. He's a black belt. He, you know, serviceable striking, but will take you down and grind on you. You know, he's a blue-collar guy. He's a tough working man. You get behind Jim Miller. Oh, a little bad moon rising. I'm fired up for Jim Miller. But the wrestling's not there. It's increasingly there less and less as time's gone by. He's a little small for the division, which is crazy because, again, there was a time where he was a very big 155-pounder, but he's not anymore. He's a short guy. He's been through the wars. He's been in there with the best guys in the world, but he's come up on the wrong end of the stick more times than once. We talk about how shot Diego Sanchez is. It's like Diego Sanchez needs Jim Miller. Like that, I think we talk about how shot one guy is. Jim Miller is equally far down there. The first fight with Joe Lozon was beautiful, just awesome fight. You book a rematch, it's like, oh, this is gonna be great, and you realize like Miller's not there, man. Looked all right against Dustin Poirier, but I think that was partly because bummed his leg out. I just don't see it out of him. He's one of those guys that's still durable. He's tough. He's not gonna quit, but he's slow. And he's, you know, he plods forward. He doesn't commit to the takedowns as good as he used to. When he is ending up on top, he might have a good first round. You know, he had a very good first round against Michael Chiesa. But, you know, in the second round, when he's on his back, that's it from him. There was a time where you couldn't submit Jim Miller. Just like I talked about Diego said, you can't submit this guy. But, like, you can catch him now. You can knock him out. You could submit him. He's there for the taking. And how he matches up in this particular spot against Alex White is that I think he'll have to come forward because if he stays at bay, he's not the taller guy. He has to come forward. And if he's coming forward, he's going to be eating counter punches. And he's going to try to wrestle him. And I don't see it happening. That is the path to victory to beating Alex White. I think Tony Martin painted a beautiful blueprint on how do you beat this guy. But Tony Martin's got size advantage that Jim Miller just quite frankly doesn't. Tony Martin can hold you up against the cage and use leverage to keep you pinned there.
Tony Martin's not aging and slowing down at a crazy rate that we see him every single time out either.
Tony Martin likely has 2 functional knees, right? And I just think with Jim Miller, it's not just the way he fights, it's who he is. He's the working man. He goes in the gym, he grinds, he teaches classes, and then prepares himself. And guys like him and Joe Lozon and Diego Sanchez and like these guys from old time, they're not the same. They can win fights. It has to be specific matchups. You'd love to see them fight each other, but he's lost to Joe Lozon, and he's lost to Diego Sanchez. And who else is there for Jim Miller to fight? At some point, you just start...
Craig White.
Yeah, exactly. If Craig White was to win and Jim Miller was to win, then maybe that's the fight you put together. But I think it's going to be the other way around. So if Jim Miller loses and Craig White loses...
Jim Miller goes up to 170 and takes on Craig White?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, with Craig White, he's such a big guy. You know, talking about cutting 40 pounds, he's walking around at 210, 220 maybe. He's going to be big. Obviously, he's never going to fight Jim Miller, but just how he's got the size against Diego, you know, that's a big thing. But Diego should be able to use that against him. Whereas when I look at this fight, size is what's going to kill him. I think Alex White's serviceable stand-up. Obviously, you know, he's a decent boxer, comes from an amateur background, spent some time in Missouri working on it. He's a very meh fighter. He's okay in every one, you know, aspect of it. Okay wrestler, okay striker, okay chin, but he wants it. He goes out there and, you know, we talk about how blue-collar Jim Miller is. Like, Alex White drank a bunch of fucking gasoline when he was a kid, has a whack voice, got bullied in his infancy or in his childhood because of his whack voice as a result of drinking the gasoline, that, you know, he had to fight his whole way through. Apparently his dad left home when he was 3 and never left much for his mom except for a old guitar and an empty bottle of booze. You might as well have named this guy Sue because he goes around and he earns respect. He's a tough fucking guy. He earns respect. And this is the spot where he's, you know, in some ways like a Jim Miller. He's the next generation Jim Miller. Minus Jim Miller was a good wrestler grappler and this guy is a sprawl and brawl boxer maybe. But if Jim doesn't commit to the takedowns, this is Alex White's for the taking. Now, I hate to puss out here, but I'm actually just going to pass on the fight because Jim Miller must realize that wrestling's the way to beat him. Like, he must realize that. And if he goes out there and wrestles him, that's the way to do it. But I have to look at recent history.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. So I'm going to lean towards Alex White.
I don't really have the faith in Jim Miller's wrestling to get the job done and the pace that gets set. He actually has had some moments where he's looked really, really tough and been able, like, against Poirier, he was able to take a bunch of damage and stuff, but I do see a deteriorating fighter, and I think that this fight, that this fight basically sets him up. It's just a bad setup. If he goes for the sprawl, it's gonna be sprawl and brawl. He's gonna eat a bunch of shots. I think the fight does go to decision. Not a fight that I'm gonna be targeting on DraftKings, but I'm with you. Alex White is my pick for this match. We move on down. We got Arena Aldana taking on Lucy Pudilova. Aldana 8,200 on DraftKings and a -125 favorite. Pudilova 8,000 plus 105. What you take?
I think I'm just going to go Pudilova. And these are not the kind of spots I generally target. I honestly feel like Irene Aldana is she's a more technical fighter. She's a better boxer. I think she's a little crisper with her hands, but that doesn't make her the better fighter. Pudilova likes to make it a fight, man. She's got some decent movement. She's always coming at you. You put her in a bad spot, she works her way out of it, she comes at you. We've seen this right from her UFC debut, where she's, you know, heavily underdog, and she loses the fight. But again, she just keeps coming after you. She keeps moving. She's young enough that I expect her to be making increments in her game. Her skill level should be going up. She's getting a little more comfortable in there. And with Aldana, I don't know, man. I just feel like it's a lot of moving backwards and counter punching. And maybe that's the path here. Maybe it is. But we've broken down a couple fights on this card where I honestly see the fight as a 50-50 with one fighter moving forward, the other one looking to counter. And I got to feel it that Texas judges especially, they're going to favor the fighter moving forward. And if that's the case, then maybe the play on Cody Saftic is the move. The play on Jimmy Rivera would be the move. And in this case, the play on Lucy Pudilova would be the move. She's a slight underdog. She's only $8,000. One player in a GPP because I don't see a finish. On a cash game, you know, she is risky, so probably not player there. Probably a pass as far as DK goes, but As far as her being able to get the victory, I think so. And I do think this fight also goes the distance. So if you're not sold in the plus 125, the plus 105, sorry, take her by decision and get the extra couple points on it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. The only thing that I think about for DraftKings is just maybe it's a super, super high volume. We have seen ALDANA in a fight before with Leslie Smith, where that fight was super, super high volume, and that was a fight that you wanted to target. But like those ones are tough to pinpoint, and I could see it being. I think the fight is relatively viable. I will be picking Pudilova as well. I think she's just a little bit more well-rounded, but. Yeah, it looks like the books and everybody's kind of... Aldana's been kind of overhyped the whole way here. She's a boxer from Mexico, and we've kind of seen the holes in her game that, yeah, she likes to kind of back up and not take control of the fight. Yeah, Pudilova, gun to the head. I won't be doing much with this fight. If anything, maybe a couple shares of Pudilova, but I think it should be pretty low-owned fight, and for good reason.
Yeah, you could be onto something, though, with Pudilova being able to potentially go out there and land on her.
Like high volume.
Yeah, because in her UFC debut, in which she was on short notice, her fitness level wasn't quite there, she landed 100 significant strikes, 99 significant strikes. Her last fight against Sarah Moras, where she was getting taken down in the first round and largely didn't score a whole lot, 75 significant strikes. The thing with Aldana is that she's been bombed on at least twice.
She'll be standing there to allow you to get into that type of fight.
Exactly. Yeah. And Caitlin Chukagian doesn't commit to hitting opponents and landed 105 significant strikes on Irene Aldana. Yep. Irene Aldana lost that fight on a split. She lost the Leslie Smith fight on a split. So, we're talking about Texas and judges. These fights are close. And you're not giving her the decision because she's moving backwards and getting hit. So, that's why I'm going to take Pudilova. But again, card full of close fights, man.
Moving on down, we've got Jared Brooks taking on Roberto Sanchez. Jared Brooks, 9,000 on DraftKings, minus 335 favorite. Sanchez is 7,200 and plus 275. Not going to lie, I was a little bit surprised when this line got released about how wide it was, to be perfectly honest. I liked Brooks when it was booked, and I heard about it. I'm like, ooh, that would be nice. Maybe we'll get like a minus 150 type of situation on it, but it looks to be kind of sharp to it. I think Brooks, like, what a way to lose that last fight, right?
Brutal.
Like, holy.
Saved me.
But holy. Like, knocked himself out. He was looking great. I had picked awesome. Brooks there. I was just like already counting my money. And he knocks himself.
I wonder if he tries to slam guys anymore. I wonder if he's just like bad accident, whatever. Or if he's
the guy's skilled. We
low
saw
singles from now on.
If I take anything from that, it's that the guy's super skilled, man. Like, he looked amazing.
Yeah.
His wrestling was on point. His pressure was on point. Everything about his game was on point. Sanchez is an interesting case, though, because that's where Sanchez's world is the ground.
Yeah.
When he gets down there, he's looking for submissions. He's very, very strong off of his back, or strong on the ground, strong on top. Is he going to be able to deal with the pressure here is the real question. I like Brooks. I think Brooks is a great prospect to watch in this division, but I'm not going to lie. At minus 335, and even the 9,000 on DraftKings, it's like, if you're Brooks, now maybe I'm giving too much credit, but why would you take the fight to the ground where your opponent, that's where his bread and butter is? Maybe you stay at distance. You go, I'm faster than this guy. I stay at range. My boxing was looking good against Shorty Torres as well. Maybe he just stays on the feet, and then he really underperforms his $9,000 price tag. I just think it's a little bit wide on both fronts. It's a fight that I'm probably avoiding for the most part, but my pick is Brooks.
Yeah, you know what? I had Roberto Sanchez in his original matchup against Ryan Benoit. I was like, ooh, this is tasty. Benoit is an apple pie shitter. You know, Sanchez is going to catch this guy in a submission at some point. If not, keep the fight standing long enough to... I don't know. I would say hit him and hurt him, but let's be honest here. Roberto Sanchez don't really got no power in his hands. This is a bad matchup for him, dude. Honestly, he's my guy. I watched this guy many of times coming up the regional scene, LFA, former LFA champ. And you're right, bread and butter grappling. Likes to be on top when he's grappling. A lot more than he likes to be on the back. For that reason, I think Jared Brooks is not going to care. I think if he wants to take him down, he'll take him down. If he decides, use my wrestling to keep the fight standing, he's way faster than him. He's got better striking. This guy's had a terrible run of luck when you consider 23-1 as an amateur, like impeccable. Comes to the UFC, he's actually a natural 115er. They don't got that division. Fights at 125. Eric Sheldon fight was actually close, but Davidson Figueiredo, He looks good, doesn't he? Doesn't this guy look like he's a top 10 fighter in the flyweight division?
Mm-hmm.
Brooks probably should have won that fight. But you know what? It is what it is. Learning lesson. Oh, he looks good against Jose Torres. He slams himself on the head and KOs himself. Like, fuck, dude. Talk about a bad break. But this is where you should be able to get back in there. It's a week notice. I don't love that, but he's always in shape. And the fact is, we just mentioned, he's a 115er. So making 125, not going to be a problem. The guy should have been a standout college wrestler. He basically bailed on his college wrestling career just to go into MMA. Monkey God, that's his nickname, probably because he's small, strong, very squirmy little bastard. But he gets the job done here. I honestly think he does. Roberto Sanchez was supposed to look way better in his debut. Like, honestly, he should have been able to use his grappling. In fact, he got submitted in his UFC debut. Didn't look very good. And he was taking on a strong, power, stocky wrestler from Team Alpha Male. Brooks is going to pose the exact same problems. He's a short, stocky power wrestler. He's faster than you. He's got better hands than you. And if he thinks he's in trouble at any one point, he takes you down. Okay, well, you're a black belt. You're really good off your back. Yeah, well, everybody at this level is a black belt, and he hasn't been submitted to this point. So how am I going to buy into that? And the last part on this one is Roberto Sanchez is a part-timer. The guy works a full-time job, and he's one of those guys that's very adamant of, I am never going to leave my full-time job. Fighting is a hobby to me. So he loves jiu-jitsu. And doing mostly jiu-jitsu has got him here. He doesn't knock guys out. He's not out there blasting guys with some sweet wrestling. He's really strong for a techie. And he puts that grip on you. He submits you. But we're in the big leagues now, man. And being Ryan Benwhite would have been tough on its own. But you could have maybe done it. But against Jared Brooks, I feel like it's a different animal. It's a different beast. And Brooks really hasn't shown what he's capable of. And this will probably be a chance for him to show what he's capable of. The $9,000, he really has to have the game plan of hit you up a couple times, take you down. He feels you isolating the arm. He lets you up, bops you up a little bit, takes you back down. Because I don't know that he'll do that. I'm going to avoid him as far as the DraftKings goes. The minus 335, again, don't like it. And I can't say definitively, well, they're flyweights, it'll go to decision. It's like, he could finish him. He was smashing Jose Torres, who I think is twice the fighter that Roberto Sanchez is. And we've seen Torres, yes, he loses his next outing, and maybe he's not as good as a lot of people were making him out to be. But nonetheless, dude, you were having your way with this guy before you KO'd yourself. Figueiredo just blasted John Moraga, who was on a credible three-fight winning streak. These are top 5, top 10 guys of the division.
Yep.
Roberto Sanchez will never be in that talk. No disrespect to him. He's a part-timer by his own admission. So I got to think Brooks gets the job done.
And finally, we got Jeff Neal taking on Frank Camacho. Jeff Neal, 8,700 on DraftKings and a minus 175 favorite. Camacho is 7,500 and plus 155. Kind of a quick take, I guess, on this one is Jeff Neal, what we have learned about him is he hits hard. Guy hits
Frank Camacho hits hard too, though.
Yeah, but Jeff Neal hits really hard, and Camacho gets into wars.
Always.
And so the real question here is, does Camacho survive? He's going to eat some shots. He's going to eat big shots, and he's going to eat them early. But if he can get into round 2, then I think Camacho kind of takes over as this fight rolls down. So this is another fight when we were talking about earlier in the card where you wanted a whole bunch of Abdul Razak ALHASSAN versus Nico Price. This is another fight that you want a bunch of it. My general lean, we got local guy Jeff Neal. He's got the power. We've seen him struggle. I forget the name of the guy. On the regional scene, he struggled against the guy who fought Thiago Santos. That's why his name not coming to mind right now.
Kevin Holland?
Kevin Holland.
Yeah.
And he got really gassed.
He gassed hard.
He gassed hard in that fight.
Third round.
So that's what I'm saying is that Camacho, we know Camacho can go 3 and he can go a high-paced 3 rounds.
That is true. That's very true.
Jeff Neal's going to clip him, and he's going to clip him early. If Camacho can survive through that, then he rolls. I think that Jeff Neal, hometown guy, first fight on the card, he's put into this position against the guy who's, striking defense is pretty abysmal. I think Jeff Neal clips him hard, gets the finish, first round finish. But I think this is the type of fight where on DraftKings you probably want to have, if you're playing lots of lineups, you want to have a little bit of hedge equity on the other side, because if he doesn't put him away in round 1, he's probably getting sparked himself in rounds 2 and 3. What's your take?
Yeah, you know what? We talked about it early on the show about certain guys like Valentina Shevchenko, Magomed Sharapov, the ring IQ. And with Frank Camacho, there's no ring IQ. You're a black belt. You're actually pretty good on the ground, dude. I've seen you. Doesn't give a shit. He's had 3 fights since he's come back to the UFC, and he's made 50 G's every time, baby.
Exactly.
He goes out there, and he goes to
this
war.
is why when I talked about the beginning of the card, how I said that, like, there was just some really entertaining fights. We got this fight. We've got the...
Those are the two front runners for Fight of the Night.
ALHASSAN versus Price. And then this one is interesting.
I think this is going to be it.
I like Diego Sanchez versus Craig White. I think is going to be could be entertaining.
Diego
as well.
Traditionally has shown up for Fight of the Night.
Yep.
Here's the thing with Neal. Again, I'm going to take Jeff Neal here. The path to victory for him, well, how he loses this fight is, he gasses out. But they're both gas bags, man. They both gas. Frank Camacho, he can go out there and put it on anybody in that first round. He's got big power. Maybe that's why he doesn't like to grapple. He's kind of like Roy Nelson in that, like, I hit this guy in the face and you just fold it up. Way easier than rolling around with sweaty dudes. I'm just going to knock guys out from now on. Frank Camacho brings the war. He comes out there, he tries to have an entertaining fight, but, his physical ring IQ just doesn't really seem to be there. His UFC debut, I think this is important to note, his UFC debut against Jingliang Li, right? He has a good first round. He hurts Li, and then he completely gasses out and loses 2 and 3 and drops a unanimous decision, okay? Li's size wore out Frank Camacho in that fight. His next fight against Damian Brown. Damian Brown's a lightweight. I don't want to hear any two ways about it. Damian Brown's a 55er, and he beats Damian Brown by split decision in a close fight. Damian Brown, not known for striking, also a grappler, doesn't even bother to take the fight to the ground, stands and dukes it with Camacho to the death. That was a great fight. And you barely beat Damian Brown. Next fight, Drew Dober. Drew Dober is a 55er as well. Drew Dober just outlasts and beat him. So now he's taking on Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal fights at 170. Jeff Neal's 2 fights ago when he was on Dana White's Contender Series, he was fighting at 185 pounds. Yep. He's way bigger than Frank Camacho is. He hits harder than Frank Camacho is. And Frank Camacho is going to, if he's used to eating punches from Damian Brown and Drew Dober, it's going to be a different bitch when you're getting punched in the face by Jeff Neal. But you mentioned the Kevin Holland fight. Jeff Neal's actually got 2 pro losses, and both of them are third-round finishes. He fucking gasses out. And so, in beating on Camacho, if you don't put him away, the guy's actually pretty durable. It's going to go to the third. And if it goes to the third and you're completely gassed and he's not, like, I don't know, man. Neal's actually got a serviceable grappling game, but it ain't going to work against Camacho. He's a better grappler. So this is striker versus striker. Hopefully it's just going to stay standing. And both guys are going to wing shots. And Neal's going to beat him in the first round. And Neal could actually, Camacho usually has a good first round. Let's say competitive first round. And Neal wins the second round. And now Neal's tired. And now Camacho wins the third. You got 1 for Neal for sure. And, 2 for Neal and 3 for Camacho. First round's dicey. They both had energy. They both landed good punches. Which way are you going to go? You're going to go with the guy from Texas. Because that's a close fight in one guy's backyard. So, you see that? That's a little fucking smoky barbecue dog. Okay? And that's what he's going to be getting. So, I got to go with Jeff Neal to get the job done. Minus 175. He was at minus 190, which I did not like. Money's coming down. Probably because the price on Camacho was a little too big. But if I can get it at 75, if I can get 60, best case, it's not going to go much lower than that. Yeah, I'd be all over that. The 8,700, Camacho's durable. He's hard to put away. I'd need a finish out of that 8,700. Because even if it's a fight of the night, back and forth, crazy shit's going down, I think I could probably make some money on other guys that are just, roughly the same price, easier path to victory, higher ceiling than just bop with this guy and hope he comes down. But hey, if it's a crazy fight and it's a fast-paced fight, then yeah, maybe he'll score lots on it. Maybe he'll get some knockdowns and score some even more. We'll have to see the way it plays out. Absolutely.
So that's 14 fights.
14 fights.
It's not normal for the UFC. 14 fights, top to bottom of UFC 228. I think there's some squash matches. Obviously, we've talked about it off the top, but I think it's generally an underappreciated card from the UFC's perspective. It's one of these cards that kind of gets shit on in the media, and then I think we're gonna, at the end of the card, we're gonna be like, maybe the main event will be a letdown, but for the most part, we'll be like, that was super entertaining at least.
Yeah, but you could watch lots of different MMA organizations. PFL, dude, what's more entertaining than that? That stuff's crazy. So in 2018, what's the UFC going to do to kind of separate themselves from the pack? And if I'm just being an asshole devil's advocate, your main event features a guy that's the most unpopular UFC champion, who doesn't really defend all that often, who's coming off 3 of his last 4 fights, 2 of his last 3 certainly, have been dog shit. 2 of his last 3. The first Thompson fight was actually super entertaining. Okay, you got that Tyron Woodley taking on Darren Till, not the #1 contender, didn't even make weight in his last fight, arguably robbed Stephen Thompson to even get here. Yeah. That's not a main event. Your co-main event features a girl that won the Ultimate Fighter, who is a 12-1 underdog, 8-1 underdog against Shevchenko, is a 12-1 favorite. She shouldn't be a co-main event. This is not a real title fight. It's a joke. ZABIT's the man, but Brendan Davis shouldn't be on no main card. And Joshua's Carolina, yeah, the winner of this might fight Rose, and they're both top 5s. That's a good fight. ALHASSAN versus Price. Give me that on a Fight Pass. Or give me that on, sorry, not Fight Pass. Give me that on a fight night. Make that a main card on a fight night. That's going to be a super entertaining card, but not a pay-per-view. SUAREZ versus ESPARZA. Going to be a shit fight to watch. Sterling versus STAMMAN. Probably a shit fight to watch. Jimmy Rivera. You guys are talking about this guy challenging for a title. He gets kicked in the head by Marlon Moraes. Now he's getting regulated like that. It makes no sense, man. You want people to be interested.
You are such a hater today.
I sit here and we break down cards in Albany, New York, and I tell you how excited I am and how this is gonna deliver, you know. And this is gonna be exciting, and it's gonna deliver. But like $70, you go get 2 tuggies at the Harveys for that, you know. Like this is a price you got to pay these days. So that's all I'm saying.
That was such like Toronto-based humor right there. Those people in Toronto, they know the exact Harveys that you're talking about. Anyway, yeah, so if you want to win the draw this week, between the Valentina versus Montano, ZABIT versus Davis, ANDRADE versus KOWALKIEWICZ, and SUAREZ versus ESPARZA, which fight has the highest probability of
shit in the apple pie?
You can do that. You make sure you have to give the show a like. You have to say who you think is gonna shit in the apple pie. And someone will go through, they will pick somebody at random, and the winner, like Nikki Noodles did this week, will win $20 DK dollars. That'll end up in their account.
Shout out.
Sounds pretty easy.
Yeah, I'd say so. And a shout out to Nikki Noodles because, and with Frank as well, Philip.
Yeah. Long time listeners.
These guys are long time listeners. They like the show. They're good dudes. They interact with you. They leave a comment. They leave a like. They
retweet us. They help us out.
And you know what? You don't win every time. It is what it is. It's a random draw that Pat Mayo selects from. But you're good to the show, and yeah, you win eventually.
Good things happen to good people like Nikki Noodles 19.
And those are good guys. So I'm glad to see that everybody's happy and making a little. But let's make a lot. Fuck it. Let's kill this event. Make some big money. And
let's hope that the main event goes off. That's all I'm gonna. I'm very worried from what I've seen from Till, to be perfectly honest.
This is the
this guy missed his weight. Breakdown. He had all of that other stuff.
Bonus edition breakdown. Who do you got, Usman or Till? Let's say that happens. Let's say that's what goes down.
I got Till.
See, I got Usman. I think Usman sticks to the wrestling. He'll wrestle, and that's the way to win. Woodley does not chain wrestle. He shoots a power double, and if it don't work, he doesn't want to commit no more energy to it.
But he's also got the pow in the hands. That could be.
He's got the pow, but
which kind of keeps Till away. I don't think Till will be afraid of Kamaru's striking whatsoever.
You've got Damian Maia standing for 25 minutes. He does not complete one single takedown. You've got him right where you want him. You can't even hurt this guy. Okay, fair enough. The second fight with Thompson. What, did he try to hurt him late? That was not a very good fight. The first fight with Thompson, you got this guy hurt, and you still can't put him away. He one-punched Robbie Lawler. Do we have to keep going back to that every time, talking about his power? Oh, he punched out Jay Huron and Robbie Lawler. Oh, don't forget about Josh Koscheck. Dude, the power, those highlight reels you keep wearing, why isn't the motherfucker? Why isn't he wearing Reebok trunks in most of his highlights? I'll tell you why. Because all of his highlights are from when you could wear whatever the fuck kind of trunks you wanted.
Fair enough.
You know what? I don't want to be.
Don't worry, the fight's not even happening anyway.
I don't want to be one of those guys that's a Woodley hater. Like it's not like that. It's just I think Till's gonna. I guess.
It seems that way. Anyway, thanks to Cody Saftic for breaking down the fights and a potential matchup between Darren Till and Kamaru Usman, which, God, I hope doesn't happen on Saturday night, because that would be a big letdown.
But if the UFC told Woodley, Till needs 4 pounds, you going to give it to him? Nope. Usman's ready to go. Do you want to fight him? Nope. But if you ask Till, Woodley don't want to fight you no more because he missed weight. Would you fight Usman's replacement? Yup. Usman, you've been training this entire time to fight this guy. or one of these two guys. Are you going to take the fight? Yeah.
Let's put an interim title on the line and go to Colby Covington just like, wait a second, I have an interim title.
No, it's an interim.
That is the absolute clusterfuck that could possibly happen here.
There's one more wrinkle that can make it even worse, Paul.
What's that?
It's an interim title fight that only Kamaru Usman is eligible to win because Darren Till missed weight. And then Darren Till wins. And then there's no interim title.
That's totally happening.
Who knows, man? But you know what? You're not wrong. There's some fun fights on this. It'll be exciting. It's Saturday night. You're going to have a couple of beers. You're going to watch the fights. I don't want to be Debbie Downer here. It's just, I love the UFC. And I'm seeing Bellator put on some nice cards and PFL put on some nice cards. And that's great for me. But, you know, does the UFC want to be the UFC or does the UFC just want to be another organization? I don't know. It's got to feel special, right?
Yep, absolutely. So, again, thanks to Cody Saftic for breaking down the fights with me as always. Thanks to Pat Mayo and the Pat Mayo Experience for giving us a home for our show. Obviously, keep on the good fight of retweeting, liking, sharing it with friends. Helps the show grow, helps keep us around. We're not going anywhere, don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody sending death threats to Pat Mayo.
Again.
Again, which happened actually that one time. We're not going anywhere, but all growth is much appreciated. We couldn't do it without you guys. For everybody here, I am Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
Mayo experience! Experience!